Presidential election petition court promises accelerated hearing, strikes out one petition at inaugural sitting.
We have something to put them through on oversight. We have retreats for leadership of each, committees.
10th Assembly legislators undergo rudiments of lawmaking and oversight.
We strongly believe that the right approach is the privatization of the power sector.
Plus, Transcorp Power PLC gets the nod, delisted from BP's routine evaluation and monitoring. Good evening, welcome to NTA Network News. I'm Cyril Stober in Abuja, and you can start clicking right now to follow us live on our website nta.ng/live, NTA News Now, as well as other social handles displayed on the screen. The Presidential Election Petition Court has struck out the petition filed by Action Alliance challenging the election of Bola Tinubu of the All Progressives Congress. This followed the motion for withdrawal filed by the party. Austin Aibe reports.
The Presidential Election Petition Court before its inaugural sitting in Abuja had 5 petitions to adjudicate on. However, upon commencement of pre-hearing conference, Counsel to Action Alliance, Madobuchi, moved a motion for withdrawal of their petition, which was not opposed by any of the respondents, and subsequently struck out. The other 2 petitions held by the panel of 5 justices, led by the presiding justice of Abuja Division, Justice Haruna Simon Samani, include that of the Action People's Party and Peter Gregory Obi and Labour Party, all the petitioners challenging the outcome of the February 25th presidential election, which produced Bola Tinubu as the president-elect. Both counsel to the petitioners and the respondents told the court that answers have been provided to the questions posed to them in the pre-hearing form which they adopted. The 5-man panel of justices, led by Justice Haruna Samani, who earlier tasked counsel on speedy adjudication on the petitions, adjourned Wednesday, 10th May 2023 for further pre-hearing of the petitions by the Action People's Party and Labour Party, while petitions by Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party and Allied People's Movement will be heard Tuesday, 9th May 2023.
The pre-trial hearing is expected to last for 2 weeks, after which the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal will issue a report which will guide the subsequent proceeding.
The court has 180 days from the date of announcement of the winner of the presidential election to adjudicate over all the petitions. From the Court of Appeal, Abuja, Austin Aibe, NTA News.
The National Council on Privatization, chaired by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, has delisted Transcorp Power PLC from the routine evaluation and monitoring of the Bureau of Public Enterprise. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports that the signing of the certificate of discharge took place at the council's meeting.
These are members of the National Council on Privatization, led by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, gathering here at the conference room of the VP's wing in the Presidential Villa for their regular monthly meeting. They are being joined by members of the Transcorp Power team. And now to the business of the day, the delisting of Transcorp Power PLC from the routine evaluation and monitoring of the Bureau of Public Enterprise. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo describes this as a very happy occasion.
Power needs of our country are grave, and we strongly believe that the right approach is the privatization of the power sector to enable serious-minded private sector players to invest in power and to ensure that they are efficient while they make profit at the same time. And we hope that this will not be the last in a series of private companies that have taken over power plants and are able to meet the expectations of the post-evaluation plans.
The company, as explained by the DG Bureau of Public Enterprise, has achieved an available capacity of 680.8 megawatts, which surpasses the minimum performance target of 670 megawatts.
And having fulfilled all the agreed obligations, the National Council on Privatization at its meeting of the 4th of April 2023 considered and approved the recommendations of the Bureau and its request that the company, Buhari Power PLC, be approved for delisting from routine monitoring.
We have operated since 2013, 10 years now, no incident, no health hazard, nothing. And we'll continue to stay that way because we know that in the 21st century, sustainability is key.
The Vice President urged the organization to continue in that progressive path and to do even better. In the State House, Jude Onifade, NTA News.
Speaker, House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila says more efforts should be made by the Nigerian Communications Commission to ensure telecommunication services permeate every part of Nigeria. This was at the commencement of an investigation into the non-availability of telecom services nationwide by the House Ad Hoc Committee. National Assembly correspondent Dayo Mushola reports.
This investigation was sequel to a motion on the floor of the House. The mandate of the Ad Hoc Committee is to investigate the alleged inability of NCC to promote widespread availability of telecommunication services in Nigeria. It is also to look at the utilization of funds in the Universal Service Provision Fund. In a message, Speaker of the House of Representatives says telecommunication service is an economic life wire.
That not only people residing in the urban areas have a right to telecommunications network, but that consideration should be extended to the rural dwellers.
The representative is committed to getting to the roots of all bottlenecks or hindrances which may have made it impossible for us to attain desired target until now.
Nigerian Communications Commission told the committee that more grants are being covered.
Nigerian Communications Commission has indeed demonstrated commitment in bridging the gaps within the clusters we have stated. We have utilized the funds, provided by law, in order to ensure that we do our work. We have evidence to show the deployments we have done.
The committee, however, requested for specific locations of all projects undertaken by the Commission. From the National Assembly, Dayo Gunshola, NTA News.
A week-long capacity building workshop for 10th Assembly senators and members-elect has commenced to enable them imbibe the rudiments of lawmaking and oversight. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
These are members of the National Council on Privatization, led by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, gathering here at the conference room of the VP's wing in the presidential villa for their regular monthly meeting. They are being joined by members of the Transcorp power team. And now to the business of the day, the delisting of Transcorp Power PLC from the routine evaluation and monitoring of the Bureau of Public Enterprise. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo describes this as a very happy occasion.
Power needs of our country are grave, and we strongly believe that the right approach is the privatization of the power sector to enable serious-minded private sector players to invest in power, the provision of public power, and to ensure that they are efficient while they make profit at the same time. And we hope that this will be the first. This will not be the last in the series of private companies that have taken over power plants and are able to meet the expectations of the post-evaluation plans.
The company, as explained by the DG Bureau of Public Enterprise, has achieved an available capacity of 680.8 megawatts, which surpasses the minimum performance target of 670 megawatts.
Having exceeded the minimum performance target and having fulfilled all the agreed obligations, the National Council on Privatization at its meeting of the 4th of April 2023 considered and approved the recommendations of the Bureau and its request that the company, Ugoli Power PLC, be approved for delisting from routine monitoring.
We have operated since 2013, 10 years now, no incident, no health hazard, nothing, and we'll continue to stay that way because we know that in the 21st century, sustainability is key, health is important, safety extremely important.
The Vice President urged the organization to continue in that progressive path and to do even better, and hopes that this will not be the last in the series of private power companies that are taking over power plants. At the State House, Jude Onifade, NTA News.
We're sorry about that mix-up. The story you just watched had earlier been aired, and that's talking about the story on the delisting of Transcorp Power from the monitoring and evaluation list of the BP. We do apologize for that. But moving on now, the National Working Committee of the All Progressives Congress has endorsed former governor of Akwa Ibom State, Godswill Akpabio, and Senator Jibrin Barrow for the position of President and Deputy Senate President of the 10th National Assembly, expected to be inaugurated in June 2023. Salihu Gwanara reports.
The party's decision has put to rest speculations and at the same time harmonized the decision of the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu with the party on the choice of leadership of the 10th National Assembly.
Abbas Tajuddin Kaduna for Deputy Speaker Southeast, Honorable Ben Carlo Abia. The NWC called for further and better consultation with necessary stakeholders in order to assure the support of the aspirants to the National Assembly leadership positions and members of the party nationwide.
Meanwhile, North Central Democratic Coalition, a political support group, want the party to reconsider its decision and zone the position of Speaker of the would-be 10th National Assembly House of Representatives to the North Central geopolitical zone.
There should be a reward system for whoever is loyal. North Central has remained loyal to the All Progressive Congress over time, and therefore we ask and plead that we should be given some sense of recognition so that we can belong to the affairs of the Nigerian polity.
In Abuja, Saliu Gwanara, NTA News.
In the meantime, Non-Serving Senators Forum has expressed its support for the zoning of the Senate presidency to the South-South geopolitical zone. Announcing the endorsement at a press conference in Abuja, Chairman of the Forum, Senator Bashir Lado, says it is in the spirit of equity, fairness and political balance in the country. National Assembly correspondent Abdullahi Aminu reports.
It is a group of about 100 non-serving senators from the 2nd to the 8th Senate sessions of the National Assembly. Their coming together in Abuja is to voice out the stand of the Forum on the current emerging issues surrounding the 10th Senate leadership.
We also affirm our unfettered support for the position of the President of the 10th Senate, who also doubles as the Chairman of the National Assembly, to be conferred on His Excellency, Distinguished Senator Godswill Akpabio, CON. We also affirm our solid support that the position of Deputy Senate President of the 10th Senate be considered to Distinguished Senator Barrow Jibril.
Members of the forum who commended President Buhari for his leadership style and the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu are optimistic that their endorsement will create a way forward for the National Assembly and strengthen the country's democracy. In Abuja, Abdullahi Aminu, NTA News.
And the North Central Coalition of the All Progressives Congress has appealed for equity in the allocation of principal offices in the 10th National Assembly. The coalition says North Central Geopolitical Zone played strategic role in the last general election that consolidated the APC's victory since 2015 and urged party leaders to rally around the request of the zone for the seat of Deputy Senate President.
What was their response? We have the president from the south.
As a group, we strongly appeal to the leaders of the party to go back to the drawing board to bring the justice and patriotism to bear and consider North Central Geopolitical Zone in the sharing of the principal offices in the composition and the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly.
The group pledged total support for the incoming administration and advocates justice, equity and federal character principles in the allocation of appointments for national unity and development. Up ahead, Nigeria's First Lady Aisha Buhari hands over baton of Africa First Lady's Peace Mission, emerges Chairperson, Board of Trustees. The details shortly. Thanks for staying with us. The First Lady of the Republic of Burundi, Angeline Ndayishimiye, has emerged the newly elected President of the Africa First Ladies Peace Mission. Equally, the outgoing President of the mission and First Lady of Nigeria, Aisha Buhari, has been appointed as Chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the Peace Mission. State House correspondent Aliu Kabir reports that this was contained in a communique of the closed-door meeting of the spouses of the African leaders presented during the 10th General Assembly.
The 10th General Assembly of the Africa First Ladies Peace Mission brought together African First Ladies from across the continent with a view to strengthen their advocacy towards mitigating the effects of humanitarian crisis in Africa and promote peace and development, particularly as it affects women, youth and children. The agenda of the Assembly centered on obtaining new leadership, taking into cognizance that the tenure of the present administration is ending on the 29th of May. The First Ladies in the closed-door session have elected the First Lady of the Republic of the Burundi, Angeline Ndayishimiye, as the new president, while the First Lady of the Republic of Niger, Hadiza Bazoum, has emerged as the vice president. The mission also appointed the outgoing president and the First Lady of Nigeria, Aisha Buhari, as the chairperson of the Board of Trustees. All petitions are to take effect on the 29th of May 2023. In her outgoing speech, the First Lady of Nigeria has expressed delight with the support and cooperation she received from across the continent, Government of Nigeria, national and international NGOs and other development partners for the huge success she recorded during her tenure, particularly the construction of a befitting secretariat, amendment of the Charter, crisscrossing the continent for humanitarian interventions and various efforts towards mitigating the vulnerability of various women groups, especially in the areas of health, education and empowerment. The First Lady assured her continued support to the new administration, especially now that she emerged as the pioneer chairperson of the Honorary Advisory Council.
This was a critical step in re-energizing the peace mission and setting it on a pathway to ensure its sustainability as a mechanism for promoting peace, mediation and conflict resolution on the continent. In line with the vision of AFLAM, recent events have revived the need for more concerted action regarding the issues of women peace and security in Africa. Issues of banditry, insurgency, internal strife, and even coup d'etats have unfortunately continued.
The Vice President of the Republic of Liberia, Gerald Taylor, as well as
The chairperson of the Peace and Security Council of the AU and other speakers applauded the achievement of the outgoing president, describing her tenure as remarkable. Highlight of the event was the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between the African Union and the AFLAM towards enhancing the performance of the mission. Also contained in the charter is the recognition of all former presidents and all former vice presidents of the mission as members of the Honorary Advisory Council. From the State House, Aliu Kabir, NTA News.
And on to the crisis in Sudan now. The talks mediated by the US and Saudi Arabian governments in Jeddah between the warring parties in Sudan seem to have made a headway, even though the warring parties have not agreed to talk about ending the war for power. Kulu Mohammed tells us more.
Envoys told mediators their principals didn't send them forth to negotiate an end to the battle for power to rule the nation of Sudan, but for humanitarian talks. Mediators first asked for a safe humanitarian corridor to evacuate wounded or dead civilians from especially the city of Khartoum and Darfur region. Secondly, mediators asked for strict protection of civilian structures, including hospitals and residences, to have aid reach the needy, and also medical supplies to have hospitals return to statutory responsibility. Finally, mediators asked for an agreement for a ceasefire and the constitution of a monitoring team to identify the side that violates the ceasefire agreement so the international community can treat blame correctly for a decisive action. These are issues on top of media agenda at the moment. In the meantime, still on Sudan, a student engineer is reported to have been electrocuted fixing power in a clinic in Darfur. He was one of the few volunteers working to keep medical facilities optimal in service to wounded civilians as the war in Sudan rages. Kulu Mohammed, NTA News.
Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, says President Muhammadu Buhari has fulfilled his campaign promises to the best of his abilities to Nigerians. Garba Shehu stated this while speaking with Achari Maxwell in Kaduna.
With few weeks to go, the Buhari administration fought corruption headlong, which has turned around the economic fortunes of the country for good through its programs and policies, among other infrastructural development.
Coronavirus vaccine and the lockdown and the supply chain crisis all over the world have challenged all the nations of the world. Nigeria was number 2 in coming out of recession. Virtually every country in the world recorded negative growth. We are very early in coming out.
On how will Nigerians remember the president after he leaves on May 29th, Garba Shehu said he will be remembered as the best president Nigeria has ever had since the return of democracy in 1999.
Nigeria and the whole world will remember President Muhammadu Buhari, who, as that leader, who came and found Nigeria suffering enormous infrastructure deficit. And he has done a lot to make sure that we come out of that deficit.
The presidential spokesperson expressing satisfaction that the transition committee is working assiduously for a successful transmission of power to the president-elect on May 29th. Achari Maxwell, NTA News.
President Muhammadu Buhari has announced the appointment of a 12-member Northeast Development Commission governing board, which includes the Director of Humanitarian Affairs Department of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Alhaji Grema Ali. A statement by the Special Assistant to the Minister on Media and Publicity, Nneka Ikem Anibeze, says the nominees include Barrister Bashir Bukar Bali, Chairman, Northeast Yobe; Suwaiba Idris Baba, Executive Director, Humanitarian Affairs, Northeast Taraba; Musa Umar Yashi, Executive Director, Administration and Finance, Northeast Bauchi; Dr. Ismaila Nuhu Maksha, Executive Director, Operations, Northeast Adamawa; and Umar Abubakar Hashidu, MD CEO, Northeast Gombe. Others are Grema Ali, Member Northeast Borno; Onyeka Gospel Tony, Member Southeast; Honorable Mrs. Hail Mary Ogolo Aipu, Member South South, Air Commodore Babatunde Akombi, retired, Member South West, Mustafa Ahmed Ibrahim, Member Northwest, Hadiz Amena, Member North Central, and a representative of the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning. And let's now go over to Lagos and link up with Michael Olale for more reports. Michael?
Thank you, Cyril. The rainy season has started with associated flooding presenting challenges for residents of Lagos, a coastal state. Terrifying experiences they often encounter make them dread the onset of rains. Dana Jalo in this report takes a look at the effects of flooding in Lagos and preventive measures.
In Nigeria and most parts of West Africa, the rainy season is usually between the months of April and September every year. The pattern doesn't follow this way always, particularly with the sometimes unpredictable effects of climate change. More worrisome is the flood disasters that come with the season. Loss of lives and property have been recorded several times.
Anytime it rains, no matter the rain, there is always flood coming down from Ilukbeju towards Mushi.
With the hydrological prediction that some states in Nigeria, Lagos inclusive, will likely experience more rainfalls and flooding in 2023. How prepared are Lagos residents in cushioning the effects of flooding?
We make sure we clear the drainages, and we don't allow people to put dirty in the drainage.
Government should do their home part too, because most of the things they are throwing in the gutters, if they don't see the people that will pack it on time, they prefer putting it in the gutters.
The case of Ikate community, Agungi and its environs in Lekki area of Lagos is a combination of flash flood and ocean surge effects.
All other stakeholders need to do something apart from the clearing of drainage. We must adhere to warnings. Daily weather reports and climate information must be listened to and adhered to. School children should be prevented from roaming around when they close from school or when they are going to school.
Despite awareness campaigns to check wrong disposal of waste in drainages to ensure free flow of flood waters, many residents still litter the environment with refuse that most times clog drainage channels.
We need to inform people on the negative effect of dumping the waste in the drains or leaving the environment unclean.
Respondents agree that proper implementation of laws and more proactive flood control measures would go a long way in mitigating perennial flooding in the state. In Lagos, Diana Ajale, NTA News.
Do not forget to follow this news broadcast live on our website at nta.ng/live and on our other social media handles displayed on your screen for updates. Time for a break. Businesses will be back with Benny Adams. Please stay.
It's time to talk business. The IMF, in its regional economic outlook for sub-Saharan Africa, is of the view that Africa is being hit by a funding squeeze amid global inflation and tighter monetary policies, which have led to higher borrowing costs and having injected more than $50 billion into African economies during the pandemic. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, says countries will have to look inwards for sustainability. Wanji Chen shares insight with Business Express earlier in the day.
Significantly, the countries have to now look inwards in terms of raising the funds to cover the expenditure. So what that would imply is, in terms of fiscally, there needs to be more domestic revenue mobilization, and then on the other hand, in terms of spending, governments have to be very efficient and looking into whether these spendings are exactly where they get the return that they need.
And the European stocks muted as traders digest rate hikes, just as Asia markets largely rise after Wall Street rebounds on Friday. Bosedebo has more on the markets.
Market players have spent weeks
juggling concerns over inflation and interest rates, with Bank of England due for a rate-setting meeting on Thursday. Both the Federal Reserve and the European Central Bank hike rates. Asian market largely rose on Monday after Wall Street snapped a 4-day losing streak Friday. In mainland China, the Shanghai Composite led gains in the region and gained 1.81% to close at 3,395, the highest level since July last year, while Japan's Nikkei 225 fell 0.71% to end the day at 28,949.88. U.S. stock futures were little changed Monday as investors looked ahead to a key inflation data released later in the week. It was a mixed trading session for African markets, with South Africa's GSA Africa Top 40 posting gains, while Namibia's overall index dipped 0.08%.
And back home, investors gain 61 billion naira as the week opens. At the end of the first weekday of trading on the exchange, a total of 511.3 million shares in 5,883 deals, corresponding to a market value of 7.13 billion, were traded. Compared with previous trading day, today's data shows 6% improvement in volume, 27% improvement in turnover, and 11% improvement in deals. The current market capitalization is 28.6 trillion naira. Access Holdings recorded the highest volume of traded shares, followed by FBN Holdings and United Bank for Africa. Well, that is business news. Network News continues with Cyril.
Thank you, Benny. And now let's return to our earlier report, which we couldn't bring you at the time we introduced it, and that's talking about a week-long capacity building workshop for 10th Assembly Senators and Members-elect, which commenced today to enable them imbibe the rudiments of lawmaking and oversight. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
These engagements with senators and members-elect is meant to expose them to legislative practices and procedures as the inauguration of the 10th Assembly draws near. Some of the topics being treated are constitutional mandate, structure and operations of the National Assembly, powers of the Nigerian legislature, and parliamentary immunities, among others.
We have something to put them through on budgeting. We have something to put them through on oversight. This is the best induction for somebody that is coming into a terrain that he has not been there before.
As a lawmaker who moved to the red chamber, I believe we will perform wonderfully.
Begin to learn the rudiments of legislation, the rudiment of legislative proceedings, right from the sitting, even from the sitting arrangement. How do you get to the chambers? What do you do when you get there?
The session is being held in two phases, with both senators and House members-elect participating.
The National Assembly itself is an institution that has its own nuances and values. And so these are the things that is being taught here.
And I believe that this current induction should be like a continuous review.
The induction, held after each election cycle, is being organized by managements of the National Assembly, the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, and the Policy and Advocacy Legislative Center. In the meantime, the House of Representatives has shifted resumption of plenary from the earlier adjourned date of Tuesday 9th May to Tuesday 16th May 2023. A statement from the Office of the Clerk, House of Representatives, Yahaya Danzaria, indicates that House leadership directed the change to enable returning House members participate fully in the ongoing induction for the 10th Assembly Senators and Members-elect in order to have impactful legislation in the 10th Assembly for good governance. Lami Ali, NTA News.
The federal government says more than 2 million people and firms across the country have so far benefited from the Nigeria COVID-19 Action, Recovery and Economic Stimulus NGCARES program within its 1 year of full implementation. This was at a ministerial town hall meeting with stakeholders in Abuja, where the World Bank approved the extension of the program by 1 year to allow for increased drawdown of the credit. Neka Oko reports.
of all the states here.
The ministerial town hall meeting is the first in the series by the federal government to interact with beneficiaries and implementing agencies of NGCARE's program on their achievements and challenges.
In about a year of full implementation, NGCARES has impacted over 2 million direct beneficiaries.
The program was able to meet the need and aspiration of Nigerians. We are able to generate results worth 77.2 billion naira. So I mean, this is spectacular and it is a landmark achievement.
Esther Aduku is one of the more than 2 million beneficiaries. She says if not for NGCARES, her poultry business wouldn't have survived.
I received 50 birds, that is chicken, and 7 bags of feed with medication. It's booming because the business has increased and I now have steady income.
After COVID-19, our cooperative was always dying, but because of the machine, it has brought unity for us. We get income from there.
So I was able to place more orders and pay out my outstanding bills.
The ministerial town hall meeting is expected to be replicated in 8 other locations across the country. Meanwhile, the World Bank has approved 12 months extension of the NGCARES program to ensure increased drawdown of the credit. Neka Oku, NTA News.
The United Nations Assembly adopted 8th and 9th of May as Global Day for the remembrance of fallen heroes of the Second World War. In this special report, defense correspondent Ismail Musa examines how the day is being marked in Nigeria.
World War II, as it often called, spanned from the 1st September 1939 to 2nd September 1945. Within this crucial period of 72 months, the world was virtually turned to a theater of war, where 40 million civilians and 20 million soldiers were reportedly killed in combat, more than 100 people displaced. To honor the fallen heroes and other victims of the tragic event considered as the worst global conflict, the United Nations General Assembly declared the 8th and 9th May as the annual day for remembrance.
So I believe that setting a day is actually good, but I believe too that having them in our mind should be a continuum.
In Nigeria, the day is embedded in the Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebrated every 15 January.
Nigerian as a country actually have chosen to celebrate the Armed Forces Remembrance Day in January of every year. And the essence of that is to actually recognize all our fallen heroes.
For these military veterans of the Civil War who are lucky to be alive, individuals and the private sector should support the government in the task of catering for the victims of wars.
Then after the Civil War, they said that we pay us a war bonus. Till today, we not see the bonus.
They appeal to government, make them remember we when we be ex-servicemen.
Recently, President Muhammadu Buhari approved the payment of SDA for up to over 34 billion naira to be paid to retiring and dead soldiers.
As part of ongoing efforts to improve the welfare of the nation's living and fallen heroes, the Department of Veteran Affairs was created in the Ministry of Defense. In Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
We'll take another break now. There'll be more when we return. Sports now, and we'll bring you the latest. Next is the weather forecast.
Hello and you're welcome. We expect mostly cloudy conditions with spells of sunshine within the morning hours. By the afternoon, we have prospects of thunderstorms over the southern parts of Adamawa, Taraba, through to parts of Plateau, southern Kaduna, the Federal Capital Territory, through Nasarawa, Benue State, Kogi, down to Niger axis. The prospects of thunderstorms are also there to the southeastern states, where we expect these thunderstorms to come with very strong winds, and there may be more of moderate to heavy rains. We expect this rains to stretch to the rest of the coast and parts of the southwest. To the north, we expect mostly sunshine with some few cloudiness here and there. For air quality, the conditions are quite good, except to the tip of Katsina axis and probably parts of the northeastern states. I leave you with the rest of the forecast.
And that concludes Network News tonight. Well, thank you for watching. I'm Cyril Stover. Good night.